Dr. Chris Brooks has been traveling back and forth between Canada and Africa, raising money to fund healthcare facilities for the needy in Malawi. I talked to him a little bit about his personal story as well as his latest project, a maternity ward in one of his clinics in Malawi.
When I was 15, I stood up in a Sunday school, and the teacher at the Sunday school said, "Is there any boy here who feels that God is calling him to go and be a missionary in Africa?" And I stood up and said yes. And this was no small thing, and I really did believe that. And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to be a doctor, and I'll go to work. I never did. And it wasn't until I was actually 60 that I made it. So one of my message is that you can always get back to what God has called you to do, even if you screwed up, which is what I did, frankly. And I never quite got around to what God had called me to, and it wasn't until in fear and trepidation that God put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Chris Brooks, are you ready to do what I've got for you to do?" And I said, "God, I am. And this is part of my story, which is that I had gone through, for personal reasons, and I don't need to tell you all the details, they're a bit boring, but I'd gone through absolute total personal despair and feeling you might as well curse God and die. And I considered doing that. The alternative was to go down, which is what I did, to fall on my knees to the carpet and say, "God, help me." And I said, "God, help me. If you help me in this situation," and this is all part of my divorce to my wife, "if you help me, I promise you one thing, I will do whatever you call me to do." And I meant it. And he did. I knew of Malawi when it was called Nyasaland when I was a boy and growing up, and I'd always been rather intrigued by it. And I heard one or two missionaries talking about it. And as a matter of fact, the church that I was going into at the time, there was a missionary that came back from Malawi, and he said, "If there is anyone here who's a healthcare professional in the medical industry, so to speak, and you're thinking of going to Africa, Malawi is the place to consider," because when I went there were 93 doctors for 12 million people. So when I turned up, it was 94. So the need was overwhelming. We started off under a baobab tree in the back of my truck, and I had a cardboard box full of medicine. And we lifted it out, put it underneath. I had a Malawian pastor who spoke Chichewa, of course, the language of Malawi. And we had our first clinic, that's all it was. And on that first day of a clinic, there were 350 people. Oh, I mean, it was totally overwhelming. Couldn't possibly cope. But it grew from that. And I would come back. I came back to Calgary and told people, "Do you know what Chris Brooks has done? He's a missionary doctor in Malawi." "Where's Malawi?" And they said, "He's mad." Well, I probably was, really. But so I came back and told people what I was doing. And slowly people came behind, "Oh yeah, Chris Brooks, here's $50. And someone else said, "Yeah, here's $100. Well, we believe in what you're doing. We've been in the business now for 8 years. And we have internal audits, external audits. Everything can be seen if anyone's interested. And so honestly, we are doing everything that we should be doing. And I'm very delighted, I'm very pleased. And we are succeeding. By the grace of God, we're succeeding. And if we carry on the way forward, if we carry on doing what we're doing, who knows what's going to happen. I envisage in 10 years from now that we will be an organization of some stature. God has blessed it. You walk right with God and he will bless you. That's my message. Very simple. People can contact us through lifelinemalawi.com. Very simple. Or they can get in touch with the office here by phone